Yeah, the question is, what do you do to get somebody to suspend their disbelief? That's the central question in drama. And the answer in drama is you got to give them a plot. You have to make them wonder what happens next. And I guess it's the central question in magic and confidence games too, right?
Well, in both. I mean, you're exerting ultimate control. So whatever you're letting them see, you're making them see. You're controlling what it is that they see,
Right.
and consequently hoping to control how they react.
I got this theory that it's not only the part of the mind that is different, dealing with the drama and dealing with reality. It's absolutely a part of the brain. It's physiologically a different part of your brain that you do when you're involved in a drama, or when you're involved in a confidence game, or when you're involved in a magic effect. Because what you're doing is, as you say, you're trying to use the mind to lead itself on to defeat itself. So that physiologically something's being released into your bloodstream to try to figure out a problem. What happens next? How is he going to get out of the locked cage? What's going to happen to Othello? And that this goes back to a very, very primal kind of the essence of the cerebral cortex of how do I get away from the wolf that's trying to kill me, which is very, very different than figuring out a logical problem. I think it's absolutely two different parts of the brain.
And do you think it kicks in or that it's developed?
No, it kicks in. It kicks in when subconsciously you can make the audience be involved. It's the Socratic method. It's why the Socratic method is better than the bullshit university system, because you make the student ask the question, so that they are no longer functioning as a, quote, intellectual, which is to say dickhead, but rather they're functioning as an animal, right? The forest is on fire. How do I get out of here? Well, they say, good luck is the residue of good design. But, when we're in love, or when we're inspired, or when we're angry, or when we're neurotic, we tend to see the universe in terms of an overriding perception. The question is, what is fate and what's coincidence? Or as they, fate is the fool's word for chance.
Robin Spielberg,
another old Atlantic person. So that's the question in drama, is what's coincidental. And as the hero gets drawn farther and farther into the story, he's less and less inclined to write off things to coincidence, and he starts to perceive a pattern, which is what we all do in life. Sometimes it's called experience, sometimes it's called neurosis. I was looking at this movie, Le Jour se lève. Have you seen it? They call it Daybreak in the United States. It's Jean Gabin. He kills his girlfriend's lover, and he's all holed up in an apartment overnight. And it's all about props. And he knows he just has like 45 minutes to live, and all in the world he wants is a cigarette. The cops are outside. They're going to kill him at daybreak, and he runs out of matches. So if you look at what Marcel Carné did in that movie, so much of it has to do with the props and showing the prop. Well, it's like magic, right? You show the prop once, what does it mean? You show the prop twice, it must mean something. You show the prop the third time, and it pays off in a way that you didn't expect. So the idea here is, in a confidence game, as in a movie, is ideas are planted early on, and they pay off. Later on, the audience goes, oh yeah, I remember. It's hard to write a drama, because it's hard to write a drama with a plot, because a plot means that you have to, at the end of the drama, resolve that problem which gave rise to the drama in such a way that it's both surprising and inevitable, as per Aristotle. The thing is, can you turn the film around in the last 10 seconds? One of the hardest things in the world to do. I mean, notably, Night Shyamalan did it in The Sixth Sense. It's very, very hard to do. And we did it here, and I felt myself very, very lucky to have done it. So I'd like to say something about working with you, Ricky, on this movie, which is the actual asking for the money, when they actually go to her for the money, is just so outrageous. So, of course, the whole movie is building up to asking Dr. Ford for the money, or getting her to suggest that she give the money. And I kept saying, no, it's so brash, it'll never work. And I believe it was you, Rick, who said, the movie in this is exactly like the confidence game. You build up, and at some point, you just got to go for the money. Sergei Eisenstein, who you guys will remember from the Matrix movies, came up with the term the 0 point. And he said there's a point about twice in every movie that would be between the first and second, and between the second and third act, when the action stops for a second, and it has to be, everything rests, like between rounds, and it has to be reinvigorated by a recrudescence of one of the elements of the plot. And here we go. What about that? As he speaks, it is the House of Games chip, which is the recrudescence of the action. And this is done today in television by narration. So as everybody says, What do you do when you start the second act? Remind the audience who loves who and who hates who. So that's what we're doing here at the start of the second act. What are the stakes? Who loves who hates who? The wonderful thing Max Reinhardt used to call scenes a tree scene. A tree scene was a scene that's, you hang everything on, all the information you can't get in elsewhere. You hang it like ornaments on a Christmas tree. So the idea is you go back over everything you learned in Act 1 and Act 2, and you find that it wasn't what you seemed. The car wasn't what you seemed. The people aren't what you seemed. This bar wasn't what it seemed. Nobody was what it seemed with this new information. Oh, how about that, a flashback? God forgive me. I can't believe I actually had a flashback. Well, I'm going to go to hell. The audience should remember. You shouldn't have to tell them. They either saw it or they didn't. But I guess I broke what I'll now characterize as the first rule of this movie, which is never have a flashback.
You know what? You can break all the rules. Always. In anything that you do. You have to reestablish at times, and there are various ways to do it. And those 20 seconds will not make you go into the filmmaker's
hell.
Indeed.
Well, Trudy Shipp, great cutter who cut this movie, said there's no rules in filmmaking. There's just one law: don't be boring. You know, when you direct in a movie, the first thing and the most important thing is, are people dependable? Because you're going too fast. And the great spirit of movie making, is the great American spirit of you bet. When you direct a movie, one of my wonderful discoveries, this first movie I directed, was that everybody will work themselves to death for the movie. Directing a film is one of the oddest occupations in the world because you spend so much time planning. And if you've directed before, you spend so much time saying, I'm never going to make that mistake again. And then when you start directing a film, it cannot be an homage to anybody else. You're going to make that film. You're going to take the plan, however good it is, and you're going to take your ability to execute that plan, however good it is, and then, in effect, make an improvisation based upon your inability to completely fulfill that plan. And I always feel rather unequal to the task. That is, that one cannot study hard enough and long enough to be able to make the film. Because there's just so much to know, and the more you prepare it, the more you find out.
Did you storyboard this whole thing?
Yeah, sure.
Do you still?
Yeah.
Who's your storyboard artist? Do you use the same one?
No, I use a lot of them, but the interesting thing about storyboards is after you get done storyboarding it, you never really look at them again. Because the whole purpose of storyboarding is, what the shot is. So you got it in your mind. Mm-hmm. So if there's 1,500, 2,000 shots in a movie, you know what they are. So when you get on the set, this was a nice shootout we did. I like that shootout. You got to rehearse the fuck out of them. I mean, like when Michael Mann did Heat, he did the big shootout downtown L.A. They closed off the street and rehearsed it for a week, and he videotaped everything because on the day you have to know exactly what the shots are because you can't make it up as you go along. Yeah, acting is like homeopathic medicine. In what way, you may ask, and I would answer, in all ways. Next question. No, I'm kidding. That the whole idea of homeopathic medicine is the smaller the dose, the more effective it is. So what you don't want actors to do is to narrate what they think the, quote, character is doing, what they think the, quote, character is feeling, how they think the story is unfolding. What you want actors to do is to be as simple as possible, love that banister, in achieving the small tasks scene by scene that the author has indicated. And it's not that less is more, because that means more is better, but less is better. So what you want to do in a story is take away everything such that if you took away one more thing, the story would not make sense. And so what you want to do in a confidence game is exactly the same thing. Because obviously there's a point at which if you start narrating to the mark is going to say, well, wait a second, why are you telling me this? So you want to do just enough to let the mark form the idea in his or her own mind. This is how a drama works, it's how psychoanalysis works, it's how hypnotism works, and it's how the con game works and how magic works.
When I walked into your class, I hadn't thought anything about technique. I don't think the word had ever crossed my lips. It was shocking to think about studying it as a science. I remember that was your whole thing, to take all the art out of it, to get all the guesswork out of it, to get all the magic out of it, to make it something concrete and repeatable and scientific. I know it was a life-changing thing.
Really?
Absolutely it was, yeah.
Was it?
Absolutely.
I read this wonderful book by this guy called Malcolm Gladwell about outliers. And white people become successful, and he says,
oh yeah, that they practice something
they
a trillion times.
He says, why? He says, if you look at the greatest hockey players in Canada over 30 years, he says, I'm going to give you some statistics on them. Figure out what's funny. They were all born in January or February, because the cutoff date for youth hockey was January 1st. So they were a year older than everybody. So, of course, they were more coordinated. They got more coaching, blah, blah, blah. He says, look at the Beatles. He says, they went to Hamburg and they played like 14 hours a night for 3 years. And so it's like, look at you guys. We all worked together for, how many years?
A trillion plays.
A trillion movies, radio, constantly. For years, I was playing around with this thing that Sandy Meisner made up at the Neighborhood Players called the repeating game, and it took me 30 years to realize that was a useless training exercise.
Oof, we did it forever. And did he hate it being called the repeating game? It was the repetition exercise.
Oh, yeah. That was a bunch of bullshit. But I spent most of my time...
Oh, it might have helped. You can't tell.
You think?
It passed the time.
It did pass the time, yeah. But I came more and more to realize that what acting to me came down to teaching somebody how to look at a scene, and then to teach someone to analyze what the scene was actually about in such a way that it could be done, that it came down to a physical action. And then after that, where the method was wrong was that it was neither the teacher nor the director's job to induce the actor to play the fucking scene. If the actor didn't want to play the fucking scene, what was he doing there? So that what I came to is let's find the people who actually want to act. I'll tell them what little I know about analyzing a scene, and then they'll go off and they'll make their voice better, and they'll work on their posture, and then let them jump in. People are entitled to have tastes. I mean, I look at these Ozu films, and it looks like the actors aren't doing anything because they're genius. And the actors that I like are the actors who are. Who the fuck knows what it is that they're doing? One can't stop watching them because it's simple and honest and truthful, and they're letting the play unfold rather than telling you what their good ideas. And if you look at most of the people down through the contemporary history who've been called the world's greatest actors, most of them are a bunch of phonies, in my estimation. So I don't know whether that's wrong or right, but I know that I'm entitled to my taste. So this is, I love this scene. It's a great standalone scene. I had a huge fight with Roger Deakins about this fucking scene. Because the reveal of the girl, I'd worked it out on my storyboards how I was going to reveal the girl, which is the way we did it here. But he said, no, you can't do it that way. You have to move the camera. I said, if you move the camera, you're losing the whole point, which is you're signifying to the audience that something's going to happen. As soon as the camera starts to move, there's no shock involved.
I quote you a lot. The only film I directed, I was complaining about the DP saying that my shots were boring, and you said, listen to me. If you ever hear anybody use the term interesting on your set, disregard that person for the rest of the shoot. The words you want to hear are simple, direct, and clear, not interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, especially the DP. The DP always wants to make the shot interesting. So a lot of work with DPs, who are very, very talented people, most of them I work with, is getting them to fucking shut up and do it the way you tell them. I mean, hear them out. But a lot of times they want to make the shot interesting.
Well, the DP wants to shoot pretty pictures, and the costumer wants beautiful costumes, and everybody wants something different than the director wants, which is to tell the story. That's not their job either. I mean, the great ones know how to fit into telling the story, but it's really hard not to put your attention on making your specific thing shine, even if it's at the detriment of the film.
Yeah. Also, you got to make sure that the DP's not going to set you up in such a way that you can't cut it when you get into the cutting room because the shot's so pretty. Mm-hmm. Well, it helps to have, blow my own horn for a second, it actually helps to have good writing, because the better the writing is, the less hard people work at it. And as we know from TV, the worse the writing is, the more you're up there kind of trying to push the fucking boulder uphill.
I know. I think I can do something with this scene. Yeah. That's always the kiss of death. Give it back. It's hard to write a script.
Yeah.
It is hard to write a script.
Yeah, well, film is all myth. That's all film is. It's a dream. It's a dream put down and projected on a bed sheet. Tacked up on a wall. It's mythological, and to the extent to which it's mythological, it's powerful. And so the people try to pervert it into being reasonable. But what we remember from Lawrence Arabia is not all that stupid fucking sand, but this guy riding up to the well for a half an hour on, it was either a camel or a very large cat. You know,